Hello everybody, good evening, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as Erik ten Hag receives a big job boost in relation to his future at Manchester United. We're going to delve straight into that. I've even got my notes from who we've been talking to. We're also got a bit of insight into Harry Maguire's future as well. I mean, look, it's news. We'll talk about that. Also, Getafe and Greenwood, a little bit coming out about that as well. And a few other bits. But look, if I said to you, have you been a bit concerned the last couple of days about the future of Ten Hag and the prospect of Pratt taking over our manager job? Because there has been a lot of talk about it. And, deep down, I've always thought it was nonsense. But I feel that I had to express it like many of you. I saw Beth this afternoon. It's nonsense that Gareth Southgate could take a Man United job. I think it's just the void of an international break being filled by a media that need to get clicks. I really do think that. But I also don't want to be silent on something that I think we need to be very, very vocal about, that we do not want this to happen. So there has been a lot of wasted energy on something that I think there's no prospect of happening. But you know me, I get the bit between my teeth and I go searching. And basically, it's taken a couple of days, but I've actually got through to somebody who actually is quite sourced on what's going on around the manager situation at Manchester United. I've taken my notes, and this is hot off the press. What is the situation? Now, look, it's a bit bland in some ways, but it does make a lot of sense. So the situation is with Ten Hag, he's certainly here to stay until the end of the season. There's no appetite to change it before the end of the season. What would the point be in changing it before the end of the season? Limping towards a potential FA Cup final. FA Cup semi-finals not until, back end of April, really. There's still prospects of getting into the top 5 race. So Ten Hag's here to stay until the end of the season, unless the wheels fell off ridiculously. That's one thing. Change of manager is low priority at this moment. Listen to the briefs of a couple of days ago. Fabrizio Romano was talking about it. There's a very good chance that Ten Hag will stay as Man United manager next season. But from the club side, a change of manager is low priority at the moment. What did I write down here? Change is low priority at the moment. There's actually lots to be happy with in relation to the plans and things that are being put in place by INEOS, but also with what the manager's done. He's taken a massive hands-on approach with the youth team. He felt there was a disconnect between the youth setup and the first team when he came in. He makes decisions on who comes up into the first team and trains. Obviously, there's been real benefits with some of those young players. And also, there is an admiration from INEOS that he still retains the best win ratio in Manchester United's history, despite the constant criticism and a very, very difficult season. Things can change. Things can change. It's not guaranteed that Ten Hag will be the manager next season. It is that he will be till the end of the season. Things can change, but it's a disruption INEOS don't want. And the reason they don't want that disruption is because they've got a new CEO that's not starting till the summer. He's in the background at the moment. They've got a director of football they haven't even appointed and don't know when he's going to start. And if they were to replace Ten Hag, they're also aware that the new manager they would like may not be able to take the job until mid-July, which is when the team are flying out for a US tour and is less than a month before the start of a new season. So the appetite to change things is very, very low from INEOS right now. They would consider doing it if things went really bad, but they don't want to do it because they're a business as well as a football fan. And they know that there are difficulties, which I wrote down here as well. So effectively, to change the manager when they don't have a director of football and they don't have a CEO just creates a summer of upheaval and mass change and mass conversation at a time when they needed a little bit of stability. So this is also what I was told as well. Coaches... I've got to try and read my own notes here. So basically, if they change the manager's got to come in brand new, the director of football's got to come in brand new, and the CEO's got to come in brand new. There's no stability. It's all new, and they feel that it's writing next season off as well. And on top of that, you bring a new manager in, you've also got to bring coaches in as well. So you go from a situation where United finished the season with Ten Hag and all his coaches. They sack them. They then got to get the new manager in. They've got to bring all their coaches in as well. Who are they going to be? You know, this is a massive, massive problem. So there is not the appetite to do it. It's disruption they can avoid. What they would like to do is bring in Barada, bring in Dan Ashworth, and have them work with Ten Hag over the summer and then see how next season goes. Because they feel that there is more chance of being Arsenal and Spurs if they can do that. And what that means is this summer, you can already predict that Manchester City, Arsenal, Spurs and Villa have got continuity because they'll have the same manager and the same team, and they'll be adding to that team. The way INEOS look at it and the way Man United look at it is that Man City, Arsenal, Villa and Spurs are going to go from strength to strength. They've got managers they want to stay and keep, and they can add to very good teams. So the feeling is that Arsenal, Man City, Spurs and Villa will be the threat next season for the top four because they've got no instability or uncertainty around them. There's no reason to think that they won't continue to be good next season. Liverpool are a bit of a question mark because obviously Klopp's going, but they could well be in the mix. Newcastle and Chelsea are obviously question marks, but both those clubs are expected to keep Pochettino and Howe, so that's continuity for them. United are concerned that if they change the manager, they're going to be going up against Man City, Arsenal, Spurs, Villa, Chelsea, Newcastle, all of which will have continuity of manager to add to the work they've done. Whereas if they bring in a new manager, as well as a new director of football, as well as Barada, they feel that they could be writing off another season in the hope that they've got it right. Whereas if Ten Hag proves himself to be the right guy, there's continuity there. So it makes sense because ultimately Manchester United want to pitch themselves next season in with the Spurs, Villa and Man City and Arsenal. They want to be in that group where there is continuity from the season before that they've built on and built some momentum and removed the injuries and a lot of the problems around the structure. I think that it's very, very clear that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a Man United fan, but I think he's also a businessman. And from a business point of view, if you are a restaurant, a bank, whatever, and four of your competitors you know are going to be strong next year because they've got continuity, do you want to break all yours down again and start again and let them get further ahead? United need to be in the Champions League next year, and they feel that the best way of doing that is to have some stability and momentum. And if they tear it all down, you know, it's going to be a quick summer as well with the Euros. The new manager that you could bring in has to bring their own coaches in. You've got to bed them in. You know, there are so many problems. Excuse me. So, look, that's all pretty much hot off the press there. I don't think there was anything that I sort of missed. Going back over it, a lot of it makes a lot of sense. Changes, low priority. They're reasonably happy with what's been done. And they want to avoid disruption. They want to, you know, they have to have disruption around the CEO and the director of football. Everybody knew that needed to happen. But I think the most interesting thing for me was the fact that there is the intelligence there to say that Man City, Villa, Spurs and Arsenal are going to be good teams next year. Of course they are. Emery's doing a great job at Villa. They'll buy again. Spurs are doing really well under Postecoglou. They'll buy again. Arsenal will be stronger next year, and Man City aren't going to go anywhere. So there are four teams that have continuity straight away. And in addition to that, Liverpool could hit the ground running with their new manager. Who knows? And who knows what's going to happen with Chelsea and Newcastle. So United really are reluctant to bring a new manager in and see how it goes when they know next season's going to be really competitive. So interesting. What I would say is that they're not opposed to changing it if they have to, but it's not the priority. And I think that I certainly feel a lot better. If you were watching the show a couple of nights ago, I was very stressed and very angry about the Southgate stuff, but I feel a lot better for this information because it makes sense. You know, the Southgate story never made sense. Changing the manager doesn't make a lot of sense. This makes sense. This information makes sense. It makes sense from a business point of view. It makes sense from an ambition point of view. It makes sense from a common sense point of view. And it makes sense from an INEOS point of view, who really this summer is going to be about the CEO and the director of football bedding themselves in. And I think that's, hopefully that's how it's going to work. The only retainer is we have got some difficult games coming up in April and May. And if you go and lose 6 or 7, you might find there has to be a change. But, I don't think that's going to happen. I think United have a bit of momentum, hopefully. Ten Hag will get it right next season, says Jay. Realistically, what's the highest you think we can finish next season if all goes well, says Anam. You know what? Honestly, I'm not saying we're going to fight for the title next year, but I have said it a lot. Arteta went from 8th to 2nd. I think we can do that. I think we can go from where we are now comfortably into the top 4. I think we can do that. Obviously, Liverpool are a lot better than us, Arsenal are, and Man City are, but I definitely think that that we'll see a very different Manchester United side if we can bring in 2 centre-backs, keep Martinez fit, and make 2 or 3 other signings, depth in the attacking position, another right back, another midfielder. I think that there is a lot to be said for how we can improve. And Alex says, in denial, Bridge. Alex, I'll answer your question. You remember, you've got a badge. Respect. But I'm not in denial. I don't know what you're in, because if you literally are urine, you're piss if you think that Southgate's a better alternative to Ten Hag. I mean, I've not seen any United fan say that they think Southgate over Ten Hag's a good idea. So be careful what you wish for, because if you're wishing for Ten Hag out, you probably are going to end up with Southgate. So just be careful. Good evening, Mark. If you could give 5 realistic goals for Sir Jim Ratcliffe to accomplish over the next 18 months to win your trust, what would it be, says Primo? Clear out in the summer, which means sticking with the manager. Investment in key positions. That's 3 things. 4, I would say that I don't want to see some obsession with British players. I don't think we need to be like that. And 5, I hope we stay at Old Trafford. They'd be the 5 things for me. Think they'll wait until the FA Cup final before letting us know the decision. Remember when they had a new contract ready for Ollie if he won the Europa, says Levi. How come people call you toxic by not those idiots on ESPN, but not those idiots on ESPN or TalkSport? It seems they want no accountability for anyone but you, says Ash. It's a funny world. Angel, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Hi, Mark. Could you wish my dad a happy birthday, says Brandon. His name is Heng. He loves the show and has been watching for 6+ years, says Brandon. Happy birthday to Heng. And Jarek has been a member for 5 months. Are you coming to the game in the US? We have an official group in Greenville, SC, and would love to have you to our event on game day, says Simon. Keep me informed on that. I'd love to do that, Simon. Okay, so look, let me get back into this because there are a couple of things I need to talk about as well, and I'm happy to go back and forth. We are acting like Southgate is the only candidate. He won't get the job, says JS. And as much as I understand and appreciate the premise of these shows, I'm thoroughly bored of the conflicting stories that these shows consist of, says Rob. Well, Rob, I think you need to leave and go and watch something else. There's nothing inconsistent about what we're talking about. We're bringing the news to you, and we're being very consistent that we believe Ten Hag will stay and should stay, and also that Southgate and any other prospect like Graham Potter is an absolute joke. And if INEOS are thinking about doing stuff like that, we're being run by a dictatorship that doesn't listen to its fans. There's nothing inconsistent about that, Rob, apart from what's between your ears. You can't understand it. Southgate is only candidate not linked to any other Ashworth gym choice, says De Gea. Here to stay, Malps. Yeah, I'm not going to repeat myself. If INEOS keep him, then they're not serious, says Marvin. But if they keep him and bring Southgate in, you think they are serious, Marvin. I'm happy to have this back and forth, but don't start throwing in comments like that, because that's what I'm going to come back with. You seriously would sack Ten Hag for Southgate? Listen to what David Ornstein said today. Certainly the most respected journalist in the UK, one of the best respected journalists in Europe when it comes to Premier League transfer news. What did David Ornstein say today? If Erik Ten Hag was to leave Manchester United, numerous top clubs would be interested in Europe in taking him. In fact, German clubs have already inquired. And if Man United were looking for a manager, they'd be looking at a manager like Erik Ten Hag. So maybe they should stick with the manager that they've got. And I think that's a great point. I think it's a great hint as well. Mario Franco says, do people want us to stick to 35% football or are they willing to move forward? Eric Ten Hag will take us forward with proper tools. Southgate plays Pulis ball, says Mario Franco. Southgate or Potter are not United quality. Ten Hag in, says Rob. Thank you very much. Just looking at some of these comments as well. MCRM says, dictatorship, the irony of somebody who was begging for Qatar. No, I wasn't begging for Qatar. It's going to be a good show tonight. If you want some, I'm handy. You've got no fence. You've got no ground. If you want it, you'll get it. If you want to talk shit, you're going to get banged. I didn't beg for Qatar. I wanted a full sale and Glazers out. And if I'm stood in an empty room now, at least I'm sticking by my morals. I wanted a full sale and I wanted Glazers out. And at the time I wanted that room was packed with Man United Supporters Trust, the 58, the Red Army, everybody. Every fan wanted that. If I'm in an empty room now, at least I'm not a hypocrite. I wanted a full sale. I wanted the Glazers out. The only people willing to do that was Qatar. So that was my choice. INEOS won. We have to get on with that and hope that they're going to be good. I wasn't begging for Qatar. And as for a dictatorship, you might want to understand what a dictatorship is. A dictatorship would be ignoring mass fan opinion on taking someone like Potter or Southgate and deciding that Sir David Brailsford or Dan Ashworth know better than Man United fans to give Gareth Southgate the job. That's a dictatorship because you're not listening to your fans. You're choosing to do what you want to do with a football club that is meant to be about the fans. If you want to see what a dictatorship looks like, look at Mike Ashley at Newcastle, where they isolated fan opinion on their own opinion. So, is that a good enough answer for you, or is that too, high level? Hi, Mark. Love the community and the content. This is Carmine. I hope you're doing well. Boss says Southgate would get the best out of our squad. He got the aura, everything, counter-attacking and defensive, says Boss. Yeah, we're never going to play good football if we bring him in. But it's bollocks. It's bollocks. I think people need to stop talking about it. I'm absolutely happy. It's took me 2 days, but I'm absolutely happy with the information I've got. Listen back to the start of the show. You might not like it, which is why I had to read bits of it because it's hard to digest. But it all makes sense to me. And I'm confident that United will keep Ten Hag in the summer, as long as we don't collapse results-wide in the next few weeks. Get ready for the Super League if they go for Southgate, says Alan. I think this is a great point. If they're looking to knock Old Trafford down and build a new stadium, if they're looking to give Gareth Southgate the job, we're almost on an open goal towards the Super League because they're clearly not listening to the fans. So, yeah. Look, I don't get it. I was having this conversation with Beth and a few of the others this morning. Like, Beth was saying she's genuinely worried about what she's hearing about Gareth Southgate. And I said, well, you should be. You should be vocal about it as well, because the problem is some people just want to super glue their lips to Ineos's arse. And I don't get it. That's never been the Man United fan way. We've always had different opinions and we've always been opinionated. So if rumours about Southgate are being attached to Ineos, call it out. But there's some people out there that are terrified of doing it. Oh, no, we've got to kiss their arse. I mean, I don't think it's true. But if it was true, some people are sort of like, wow, we've got to give them a chance. No, we don't have to give them a chance. I'm English. I've watched England for the last 8 years under Southgate. I've seen some of his, basically on That's Football, at least once a month, there's a video of me going in on Southgate. So this is not new. This is Slow Sports News. I think Southgate is an absolute joke. I'd feel sorry if he went and managed Everton. I'd be on Everton's side saying don't do it. The fact that he's been linked to my club sends me up to 90. But there's videos on That's Football all the time because he does stupid things like ignoring players that deserve to get promoted to the England squad to keep his mates in, like Phillips and Henderson. I mean, let's not bury this stuff under the floor like a cat shit. His decision-making is abhorrent. It's nepotism. Proven nepotism. I don't know why this has all been hidden this week. Probably because the press have an agenda. But he's a shockingly bad style of play tactical coach. And on top of that, he makes incredibly favouritism picks. He will not pick a player who deserves to get picked over picking his mates like Henderson and Phillips. He also did it with Maguire, a year ago, who didn't deserve to get picked, but he still picked him. Pickford's been England's #1 for years. He really shouldn't be. We've had better goalkeepers. So, look, he is... I don't want to spend any more time talking about him because he's absolutely redundant, and that's where he should be if England ever sack him. But I'm happy with what I know. I'm happy with what I've been told, and it's all very logical. I'm sorry, but they won't sack him because it's inconvenient. Not that he's done a great job in a bad situation and he's improving the team. They need to make a public backing of him, says Alex. And why can't people understand that your opinions are consistent but the news is inconsistent? That's not on you. It's just what's reported mainstream, says Rastelin. Thank you very much. Mark, make a Southgate Ten Hag poll and silence the jokers. Mate, I'll do it, but I think those who vote Southgate are just going to be trolls. But I will do it, and it will just show you how many people watch this show that are not United fans because their own clubs can't provide them with decent content. You can get on with that. I've got another bit of news for you anyway. This is good. I've had 2 bits of really good news today. A lot of people have been talking about Harry Maguire and West Ham. Speaking to someone this afternoon, very close to the West Ham situation, David Moyes does want Harry Maguire. Slow Sports News. Let him speak, Simon. No, they got very close to signing him last summer. And look, the person who told me this today is the same person who was telling me about the deal last summer. So, 2 + 2 is 4. Last summer, Manchester United agreed a £30 million fee with Harry Maguire and West Ham. And the deal was going to happen. And Ten Hag was happy to sell Maguire. I mean, he took the captaincy off him. He does like Harry Maguire, but he doesn't like the player in the sense that he knows that if he'd replaced Maguire last summer with Todibo, he'd have a player that can play a higher line. So, look, people forget this stuff when they're having a go at Ten Hag. When Martinez or Varane have been injured and we've had to play on the edge of the box, that's not Ten Hag's fault because he sold Maguire and was ready to bring in a centre-back that could play a higher line. But United messed it up. So Maguire knew he was going to West Ham. Man United had sold him to West Ham, and Ten Hag was happy to sell him to West Ham. The reason the deal didn't happen is because Harry Maguire's on 190 grand a week, and West Ham were only willing to pay 100 grand a week. So Man United was asked the question, well, can you knock 5 million off to cover Maguire's wage that he's entitled to? And United couldn't negotiate that. So Maguire was like, look, I don't need to take a pay cut to go when I've got 2 or 3 years left on my contract. So I'm not going to go and earn half my wage at West Ham. So Maguire ended up staying and the deal collapsed. That was a year ago. Where we are today is that David Moyes obviously still wants Harry Maguire. He's a massive fan of his. And I think Harry Maguire at West Ham would work perfectly because West Ham do tend to play a far deeper line and counter. So West Ham with Maguire in their team would work really, really well. The added attraction to Maguire now that they didn't have last summer is that they have got arguably the best set piece deliverer in the Premier League with James Ward-Prowse, especially from corners. And David Moyes, quite rightly, has acknowledged that Harry Maguire is one of the best set piece winners of the ball. Now, as we know, Harry Maguire wins a lot of headers. He just can't direct it. But David Moyes sees that as a massive positive and believes that if he had Maguire at West Ham, he could get Harry Maguire scoring 5 goals a season in the Premier League, which is a lot for a centre-back. So, I don't know. Is he wrong? Do you think that Harry Maguire in a team like West Ham, who play deeper and are very big on set pieces, do you think Harry Maguire in a West Ham team would be a success? And do you think he would score goals? And honestly, I've never been David Moyes' biggest fan in relation to the top level of management. But in relation to that, I think he's absolutely nailed it. I think if you put Harry Maguire in a West Ham team, he'd be very, very good defensively because they play deep. I also think with Ward-Prowse's delivery, if he signs for West Ham in the summer, let's have a little bet. He'll score at least 3 Premier League goals. At least 3. Because he's brilliant in the air. He wins headers. Can't direct them very well, but he does win them. So, yeah, I suppose the only interesting thing will be I think if Ten Hag stays, Maguire will go. If we bring Southgate in, Maguire will definitely stay. But I think if you brought in someone like Nagelsmann, I think Maguire would go as well. So I think it just depends on who the manager is next season. If we're going to have Ten Hag or a manager that wants to play, expansive and high, then I think Maguire will leave. If you bring in a defensive style of coach, then he might well stay. But it's a logical move I think it's a logical move for Maguire, and I think it's a logical move for West Ham, and I think it works. The news outlets in the UK must be completely clueless. All I hear every day is Ten Hag in, out. Come up with something new already, says Killen. Mate, what did I say to you last week? All I want to talk about is transfers. That sort of thing is what I want to talk about, and there's plenty of it to discuss. But the media in this country are like a dog with a bone. They just won't let this go. So they've basically, fair play to them, they've got a story out of most of this week, haven't they, that I think is complete bollocks. Godswall says, we don't want Southgate, period. Who the hell's voting for Southgate, says Paul? It will be rival fans and trolls. Can't complain with that. I love Bruno, but hasn't been great lately, says Linda. Who the hell's voting? Okay, I think Maguire would do very well at West Ham, says Headliner. I do. I think he'd do really well at West Ham, and I think it's a logical move. So, let's wait and see. I think it'd be a very good signing for them. ARG says the ego of Goldbridge is the size of a blimp. Oh, mate, it's Thursday night. It's the start of the weekend. Go and do something you enjoy then. I don't know what you're talking about. Mark, have you seen the news saying Ashworth has recommended Bremer to Manchester United, according to Tutto Sport, says Stefan. I have. I'm very well versed in Italian news. Tutto Sport ain't the best. So, look, Bremer at Juventus is interesting. We did that video yesterday, didn't we? The transfer list. Really enjoyed doing it. Hotometer was there. You'll notice Bremer wasn't there. I have no news at the moment that Bremer is actually a logical target. I think the attachment of Dan Ashworth via Tutto Sport is opportunist. I don't think he is a target for Manchester United at the moment. As I said, I believe Branthwaite to Debo will be the top two targets. Doesn't mean we won't move away, but there's no reason. I don't believe the story, if I'm being honest, because one, I believe the people I've spoken to, but two, there's no reason to move away from Branthwaite or to Debo at the moment. I'm not saying we wouldn't sign Bremer or another centre-back come June, July, but in March, middle of March, there is no reason for United to abandon Branthwaite or abandon Todibo. They don't need to do that. They may well be in talks with Bremer, I would concede that, but they're probably in talks with 6 or 7 centre-backs. Like, the way a transfer works is like this. If Man United are looking to buy 2 centre-backs, and they might not be, they might only be buying 1. I think we need 2. If I could send a message to INEOS, we need 2 centre-backs. We 100% need 2 centre-backs. 100%. So what I will say here is that if Manchester United want to buy 2 centre-backs in the summer, right here, right now, in March, this is how it works. You've spoken to Todibo and his representatives, Branthwaite as well, probably spoken to Bremer, probably spoken to Guehi at Crystal Palace, maybe Tapsoba. What I mean is we'll have spoken to 5 or 6 centre-backs and their representatives. That's how it works. And they might have spoken to 2 or 3 other clubs themselves. You spread your bets and then you go with your priority. But then if you don't get that, you quickly move on to number 2, number 3, number 4. And that's how the transfer market works. Some people think, we want Branthwaite, we've missed out, shit. Get Todibo on the phone. We want Todibo. Oh, he's already going to Arsenal. Quick, get Bremer on the phone. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. We need Southgate like we need a breakout of foot fungus in their locker room, says Hunter. Can you say that Emma has a receding hairline, says Jamie Island. Okay. Can't wait for the FA Cup final so Ten Hag can finally be handed a long contract and shut the media for at least a season, says Daniel. I mean, can you imagine that scenario, by the way? Can you imagine being in that scenario where we have an FA Cup final against Man City and he's got to win it to keep his job? I've never heard of something so stupid. So he's got to beat the best team in the world to keep his job. I get it with Van Gaal. Like, Van Gaal should have gone at Christmas. They knew they were getting rid of Van Gaal in the summer. They'd made their mind up in January. It was just about getting over the line. And he won the FA Cup, fair play. But they had Jose Mourinho waiting for that job for 4 months. He hasn't got to beat Man City in the final to get his job. It would be stupid. I don't know why the media are pushing it either. How the heck did Southgate get a vote, says LeBron. It's the way of the world, mate. It's the way of the world. I did want to talk to you about, I know Beth spoke about it this afternoon. I wanted to talk to you about Gomez of Wolves. I don't necessarily believe this story as well, first of all, because we've also been linked to Neto, and I don't think we're in for Neto. I like Neto. A couple of months ago, I said I'd have took Neto over Elise, but I think I've got to bow down to injury and what a lot of people have said. Elise does get injuries, but I think Neto gets more. I probably prefer Neto over Elise, if I'm being honest, but I think the injury thing, we just can't take that risk. I don't think we're in for Neto. I don't think we're in for Neto. So I don't really think we're in for Gomez, to be honest with you. I sort of trust Fabrizio on this one, in the sense that I don't think we're looking at a midfielder. You know what, as well? I mean, look, I'm happy to be proven wrong on this. I believe that Kobe Mainoo is a number 8. I think that his attacking skill is better than any other skill he has. Close control, dribbling. You can't really do that as a holding midfielder. But watching him in training for England today, his tackling was bloody brilliant. So, you know, maybe he is going to become a 6. I mean, who knows? He's so talented. But maybe we're not going to look at a holding midfielder or a defensive midfielder. What I would say about Gomez at Wolves is there's a good player there for someone to get hold of. I don't know whether I'd class him as a holding midfielder for Wolves. I think he's, you know, do Wolves play with an out-and-out holding midfielder is what I would say. They're a very energetic midfield. But Wolves, I've been very impressed with this season, and he's played a lot of games, and I think he's a good player. And there's no doubting that his number 1 asset for me is tackling. Like, he's a brilliant tackler, and he's very, very energetic. So, still only 23 as well. So, look, I think Gomez is going to be a really good signing for somebody. I just don't think it'll be United. But Wolves have got financial difficulties. If you could get in and do it, I'd be very... Look, I think we need that type of a player. So I'd be very, very happy with it. And this is what I mean about João Neves at Benfica. Brilliant player, but we can't afford 100 million. So if you went and got João Gomez from Wolves for 40, do it. Because the £100 million player might be a little bit better, but he's out of reach. So I would like that signing. I just don't think we're going to do it. I hope to get proved wrong, but yeah, I think it would be good. Luke says that Wolves don't have FFP issues. They do. They do. They had a really bad summer last summer. They don't have FFP issues. No, you're right. They had a bad summer last summer to avoid financial fair play issues, and they're not necessarily in a much better situation this summer, i.e., they'll probably need to sell. Mojo's in the chat with 10 memberships. He's a bloody legend. Tom Thomas is a new member as well. And can I give a shout out to Gary Suitgate, who has gifted 5 memberships as well. Legends. Thank you very much for the gifts on this Thursday night. Always nice to see other members of the community gifting other members of the community. Absolute legends. Gary and Mojo. How the left back, centre back, CDM and striker at best. I think striker and left back are currently the most needed, but who knows with these injuries, says Gaggy. Thank you very much for that. Gaggy is a member as well. You think I'd be a better manager than Southgate, says LeBron James. Yes, I do, 100%. Just a bit of news on Rasmus, by the way. I was really impressed with this. You don't normally hear this, but the Danish manager was talking about Rasmus and said that he's been in a discussion with Ten Hag and Man United, and they've got a plan for Rasmus in relation to his recuperation. Obviously, against Liverpool, he could only play 60, 70 minutes, and he had to come off. For Denmark, the plan is that he will start the game in their first friendly, which I don't know when it is. There's no limit restriction on minutes, but they're going to see how he is after that game. So he might have limited time in the second game. So this is really intelligent. This is really good. And it's in Denmark's interests as much as it is Manchester United. This is a player that's just come back from an injury. And the fact that an international team is working in cooperation with Manchester United on a key player for both, with the Euros coming up, I love to hear all this stuff, because there's a lot of people moaning about Martinez being in Argentina, Casemiro pulling out of the Brazilian squad. But, you know, it would have been quite easy for Manchester United to pull Rasmus out of the Danish squad because he's only just come back. They didn't do that, and I applaud Man United for that, because actually, if you balance it right, he'd be a lot sharper for the Brentford game by playing a bit of game time for Denmark than he would be staying back at Carrington. But I also applaud the Danish coach for actually, you know, looking at it from not only Man United's point of view, but from Denmark's point of view, that they have got this major tournament coming up in June, and that's still 3 months away. So you want to manage Rasmus back to full fitness. So look, really, really good to hear that sort of stuff, because you don't always hear it, if I'm being completely honest. Can you call Emma a liar and a cheat and a drunk, says Jamie. We're having a bloody domestic in here. Jamie and Emma, sort your shit out. What's going on? What's going on? Let me just catch up with a few chats. What about Anthony Robinson for left back from Fulham, says Tis Crazy. Really like him. Really like. Look, I don't necessarily mean in relation to Manchester United, but you know, sometimes when you watch a club and you go, I mean, you could say the same about that João Gomez at Wolves, actually. He'd be another one of those players where I don't necessarily think that United should sign them or anything like that. Just when I watch them, I think I'm generally impressed with them most games I watch them. And Robinson at Fulham, I'm not saying he's a Man United player. I think he can play at higher level, but always impressed with him. Proven Premier League left back, very good at getting forward. You know, I'd love him at United now. I'd love him as the backup to Luke Shaw. Yeah, and he'd be playing games. So, yeah, I do like him. I'd say, what about Palina, says G Singh. Oh, mate, I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's a fantastic player, but I feel like it's like that song by Gabrielle. Out of reach, so far, you were never meant for me. Out of reach. I think Palina falls into the João Neves category, of Osman category, of out of reach. They're not gonna, if they're gonna be on the hotometer, they're gonna be down at a 1 out of 10. Look, there's players out there I'd love at Man United, but we have got to be realistic. We can't be, you know, we can't accuse INEOS of being unambitious for not signing Osman or João Neves or Palina, because their price is prohibitive. Some clubs will be able to buy them because they're in different situations. You know, the reason Bayern Munich can probably spend 60 million, 70 million on Palina is because they're basically a big club with a lot of big players, and they can spend their budget on one or two players. We need volume as well. Alan Marjorie Banks has just gifted 10 memberships. We've got another legend in the chat. Thank you very much, Alan. Andrew Carr says United will be there next year if they get the play-in and the Deadwood out, but it is player power at the minute, says Andrew. I think you're right. I think that player power at Manchester United is still a massive problem that they need to resolve. And, you know, I have sympathy with some of the players in that sense as well, because I think when we think of player power, we always think of toxicity and division in the dressing room. Player power can actually not be toxic. Player power can be players being used to having a say on things. For example, you know, maybe the senior leadership team, which, as last time I checked it, was Luke Shaw, Rashford, Casemiro, Varane, Tom Heaton, Bruno Fernandes. I think Maguire was in it. I don't know whether he's still in it. So those players may be well used to having a big say on what goes on. That doesn't necessarily mean it's toxic, but I still think it needs diluting. I don't think we need player power at Manchester United in any shape or form. Ben says, I'm loving the show, watching from my hospital bed. Any chance of a shout out, says Ben. Big shout out, Ben, whatever you're recovering from. Can we get a bit of love for Ben Ryan? He's also been a member for 30 months, which is legendary in itself. But I hope you're doing well, mate. All quiet on the Ferguson front, says Axel. In relation to Evan, yes. Rash says, Ollie in his first full seasons got top 4 and reached the European final. If Ten Hag did that, you would want a statue of him outside, says Rash. I wouldn't. And Ollie did that, but he didn't have the win ratio that Erik Ten Hag's got, has he? Did he? And also, Ollie didn't. There was something I was going to say there. Ollie left us in the mess that Ten Hag had to pick up. Ollie created the team that was the worst ever Premier League side in our history. So, it's all... Look, at the end of the day, Rash, if you think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was the solution to Manchester United, then, the proof's in the pudding. There was a story today that somebody sent me, and it was something along the lines of Getafe Greenwood blow as United recall him to Old Trafford. And I looked into it, and basically what it is, if there's any element of truth in it, because automatically I think that gets the Greenwood FC United fans really excited. But the story's very much, inflammatory in a sense, because it's a non-story. So basically, the story is, if you think it's a story, is that Getafe would like to keep Mason Greenwood on loan for another season, and of course, no idiot at Man United is going to ever sanction that when there are clubs willing to pay money for Mason Greenwood this summer. And also, if we loaned him out for another year, he'd have a year left on his contract, which I think would be up. I think there's an option for a +1, but, he's got 2 years left on his contract this summer with the +1 option, and there's people ready to buy him. So what the Getafe return Greenwood thing is all about is that Getafe would like to loan him for another year. United want to bring him back to sell him. So it's a weird non-story, but I thought I would bring it into the show at some point just so that people understand that we're not recalling Greenwood from Getafe because we want him to come and play for us at the end of the season or anything like that. He will stay at Getafe for the full season, and then United will bring him back, technically, to make a decision on his future, which will be most likely selling him. So Getafe cannot afford what we want. And to be fair to United, although it wasn't plan A, plan B has actually worked for a while, for a change, because by loaning him out, it couldn't have gone any better in the sense that it's actually created a value for him that wasn't there last summer. Nobody would buy him last summer, and now somebody will. So it's actually worked really well. What I would say in relation to Loan Watch is there are some concerning players out on loan at the moment where it's not going so well. Even Alvaro Fernandez, I was reading about yesterday with Benfica. They might be sending him back. Donny van der Beek, has anybody heard what Donny's doing at the moment? I know it was going really bad in Germany. I don't know whether it got any better. I sort of thought no news was good news, but I don't know that it's getting any better. The Maybury Sevilla loan has been an absolute bloody nightmare. God knows what we're going to do with him. So look, yeah, I mean, and Sancho, as we know, I think there's a good chance that Sancho will go on loan again next summer. I don't really see how we're going to get any money for him. So yeah, it's it might. I mean, I'm not an expert on some. The experts on financial fair play are experts because they spend a lot of time analysing it. I don't have the time to do that, but I do wonder with Sancho if it might be an idea to keep him for another year, because then the amortisation disappears. So whatever money you get is profit compared to this year where I think it gets reduced. I don't know whether I'm right about that, but Pellistri on loan as well. I don't know how is Pellistri doing. That's another one. I don't know. Does anybody... Look, get in the chat. If you're aware of how Donny's doing or Pellistri's doing, let us know. Alan, legend. Also, Bruno always performs at Portugal, so it shows that the football we play doesn't suit him, says V the boss. Southgate to come in before the FA Cup semi-final, says Ibs. Yeah, not going to happen. I mean, look, I'll humour you a little bit. The hilarious thing about Gareth, I don't think we've even mentioned this because it's the same as Nagelsmann, and I respect Nagelsmann a lot more than Southgate. If Nagelsmann took the Man United job, he wouldn't be able to start it until mid-July. If Gareth Southgate took the England job, the Man United job, he wouldn't be able to start it until mid-July. So not only is he a crap manager, but he wouldn't be coming in till mid-July. So we'd miss most of the summer in relation to recruitment and removal of players. It would be a bloody nightmare. It would be so disruptive. And it would be the same with Nagelsmann as well. Whatever United do, and I think they should stick with Ten Hag, but if they did bring a new manager in, they need to start right at the end of May. Van der Beek is crap, says Moonhead. Not the best update. He's doing horribly, says Jordan. Palestri is playing really well, says Ryan. Good, that's good to hear. Leo says Roy Keane embarrassed himself with the Southgate comments. Well, so did Neville, apparently. I mean, look, I haven't watched it, so I have to be very, very clear here that what I'm about to say, I might have been misquoted, but let me read. So I spoke about what Roy Keane said this morning. I saw this as well. So basically, this is apparently Gary Neville's quote. I never saw Gareth Southgate as a Man United manager. Psychologically, I've never saw that. I can see it now. Now that Dan Ashworth come in, I just think, what does Erik Ten Hag need to do to stay as Manchester United manager? Does he need to win the FA Cup, or does he need to get top 4 or top 5 Champions League? So I don't know. I don't really know what Gary Neville's saying. Is he saying that he can now see Southgate as a Man United manager? Because that terrifies me. You know, that absolutely terrifies me that he thinks that that's, you know, a decent thing. But a lot of these people wanted... I mean, look, Roy Keane wanted Simeone when Simeone was a park the bus coach as well. Maybe there's a... Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. You know what it is? I think they're I've said this from day one. I don't think our ex-player community or the media... In fact, it's not even think... My opinion is, I don't think it, it's my opinion. My opinion is, from day one, the media and our ex-players never wanted Ten Hag. I remember Ten Hag's first interview on Sky Sports with Carragher and Neville. It was horrible. It was like he was a pupil and they were the headmasters. You know, it was a really accusationary interview of somebody that not even got their foot in the door. So, look, I don't understand it. If anybody could explain it to me, because perception's key. But I've always believed that the media and a lot of our ex-players never wanted Ten Hag. So it doesn't surprise me that they would say, oh, I can see Southgate as coach, because I just don't think they like Ten Hag. And I don't know what it is. I don't know why. You know, answers on a postcard, there's no reason for it. There's no reason at all. There's enough mitigate. I'll tell you what, if Ten Hag was Solskjaer, they'd be dying on a hill for him. They'd be going, his win ratio, the injuries, the sale, you know, the youth he's brought through, you know, you've got to get behind this manager. The contrast between how they, you know, stuck by Ollie but won't Ten Hag is just really weird, because Ten Hag is clearly better than Ollie, and there are clearly some positives and mitigating circumstances, but same with the media as well. They just don't want to do it. Maybe you know why, but that's my firm belief, that I think it becomes very obvious that certain ex-players and the media just don't like Ten Hag and never had. And maybe it could be as simple as when Ollie was in charge and Carrick was assistant coach, those ex-players have got them on WhatsApp. You know, they can WhatsApp them on an evening. They've got an in to the dressing room and the team. They won't have Ten Hag's number and he won't be WhatsApping them. So it might be something as simple as that. Maybe if Southgate gets the job, they've got him on WhatsApp. I don't know what it is, but maybe they don't feel that they've got an in to United with Ten Hag. I've just watched that episode. What he said was, I can see Southgate being United manager due to his relationship with Ashworth, says Luke. Yeah. And that's what I mean about has he been misquoted, because it's all about the interpretation. Which I think is what Roy Keane was saying in a way. But what I would have expected from people who are United legends, why are they not coming out like the fans and saying, absolutely stupid decision? Because it is. It would be if it was. Leo says their comments were embarrassing. Anthony Williamson has been a member for 3 months as well. Good day, mate. Mark, how you going, mate? Where has this Southgate rubbish come from, says James? Well, I don't want to talk about it anymore, because I think the first 5 minutes of the video just shut it all down. It's ridiculously well sourced, which is why I've wrote it down in notes. It's not what INEOS want to do. It's disruptive. They don't want to do it. They've already got a new director of football and a new CEO coming in. That's going to be disruptive, but has to happen. If they replace a manager, they've got to get new coaches in as well. The manager might not start until mid-July. They'd have to write off another season next season. They're scared of the Cities and the Arsenals and the Spurs and the Villas who will go from this season to next season with continuity and be stronger. They've got to be in the top 4 next season for the Champions League, and they just do not want this disruption if they can afford it. Obviously, what is true is that they can't guarantee that Ten Hag will be the manager next season because they don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 months results-wise. But as long as we finish the season reasonably well, they won't change it because it's disruptive and they don't want to do that. So look, honestly, forgetting the S word, I personally feel that all the manager talk from last week, the week before and this week, I think it's a lazy media trying to dictate what happens at the biggest club in England. And we've seen it before. They did it when they wanted Poch instead of Ten Hag. And I think the media are still trying to flex their muscles to see and prove that they can dictate what happens at Manchester United. But the world's changing in relation to that. I think fans aren't just going to swallow it anymore. And I do think that's what it is. And now I think it's international break and they're not interested enough to actually talk about the stuff we want to talk about. So instead of talking about and doing their job around transfer targets, they'd rather come up with some shitty manager thing because it's lazy. I mean, it's so lazy. That West Ham Maguire story was so easy to get hold of and they could have got that, but they don't do it because they'd rather talk about this manager thing. Man United right now are talking to so many players. So many players. It's the March international break. It's the last opportunity to really get out talking to players whilst there's no games going on and their representatives. And loads of clubs are doing it. Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, Manchester United. We're doing it. And yet nobody's talking about it because they'd rather push some silly agenda story. There's so much going on at the moment. That's why we did the transfer list yesterday, because there is so much going on. There are so many conversations. There are so many if, buts and maybes around sales and purchases. But for some reason, this media just doesn't want to do it because they don't think it's interesting. And the sad thing is, we do. They get a lot more credit and a lot more interest in their articles if they actually went out and do what the bloody job should be, which is actually looking at what's going to be the biggest Manchester United transfer window in 20 years. It's absolutely massive. And they're just not on the page with it at the moment because they want to push something else that they want to happen. It's a horrible thing when you've got people who think that they can push an agenda on people. And as somebody that gets accused of that, I don't really care if you're Ten Hag in or you're Ten Hag out. I'm Ten Hag in. I don't really care if you're Player FC or Man United FC. I'm Man United FC. The world is full of fools, but it's also full of opinion. And that's the way it should be. But I do feel like there's a pile on at the moment, and it's to the detriment of the conversations that we want to have. I think we've wasted a lot of time this week. Demar says, "Hi Mark, I've come to realise that the media can't survive from positive news around Manchester United. It's incredible," says Demar. Yeah, and apparently, yeah, but we're the negative ones. We're the negative ones. It's not certain fans online targeting these media outlets for spreading bullshit. No, target a fan community. Yeah, because they're the ones trying to bring United down. Would you take Roberto Martinez? Oh my God, I wouldn't take Roberto Martinez to the zoo, let alone give him the Man United job. I think he's just a... It's just Southgate, isn't it? Martinez is another manager that winds me up. I mean, he was a hipster with Wigan over 10 years ago, and he's got a job off that ever since. But again, he's now managing a Portuguese side, which I could manage, and you could manage. Like, there's certain jobs in international football that are a piece of piss France, England, Portugal are a piece of piss. They only justified Southgate because of his looks, says Mario Franco. Thank you very much to Luke Hughes as well. Thanks everyone who's been getting involved. He's a Spanish Southgate. That's a good one, Kristen. Yeah. Fair play on that, because I couldn't. The reason I was stuttering is I couldn't remember what nationality he was, because he's managed Belgium. He now manages Portugal. But you're right, he's Spanish, isn't he? Look, I remember playing FIFA years ago against Wigan, and you'd always beat them. If anyone can remember it, you'll know what I mean. You'll know. If you know, you know. Whenever you played Wigan, managed by Martinez on FIFA, it was the game to get your goal difference up. Like I don't know what formation they played, but FIFA replicated it, and you'd batter them, absolutely batter them. 8,000 on the vote, 91% for Ten Hag, says M. Parker. Nagelsmann is either staying at Germany or going back to Bayern, so that won't happen anyway, says Ali. Well, look, as I said before, I mean, I can have the hypothetical conversation. I don't think replacing Ten Hag is the right thing to do. I'm adamant against it. But if I was replacing him, then I would be desperately trying to get somebody out of a club. If you can get Barada out of Man City, you can get a manager out of a club. Why is it that we're looking for anybody who's free, available, or cheap? Like, and out of everybody's available, I probably would go Nagelsmann, actually, if I had to. But nobody's ever had that. You know, it makes me laugh, because I've always said this. You've got the Ten Hag out brigade, but then you say who? And they come up with weird names. Oh, De Zerbi. What? De Zerbi's having a shit season. He's a massive risk. If you were replacing the manager, why can't you go and get somebody from a job already? Like, why is that off the table? Does that not worry you as a Ten Hag outer that if we sack him, we've got to go for somebody who's available, like Potter? I mean, for God's sake, if you're going to do something, don't do it on the cheap. You know, if you're going out for, somebody's birthday meal, don't take them to the Harvester. Like, book them in a Michelin star restaurant. So if you're actually going to do something as stupid to replace Ten Hag, at least do it with somebody who's bloody good. Why are we fishing in a pond of free? Oh, he's coming to the end of his contract. Oh, he will be available. So basically, you want us to sack Ten Hag and go for somebody cheap. I mean, in fairness, at least De Zerbi actually is at a club already. But I have massive reservations about De Zerbi. But my point is, if you were going to replace Ten Hag, then I thought we were going for best in class. Not best in ass. Because every name we get linked to, from Southgate to Potter, it's not best in class, it's best in ass. It's rubbish. It's shit. So, yeah. But if you were going to replace your manager and you're going to go for best in class, why aren't you going to clubs that have got proven managers and getting them? You know, why not go to Aston Villa and get Emery? Why not? Why not? If you're looking in the Premier League, why not try Postecoglou from Spurs? You know, why not go to Italy and get a decent coach from there? I mean, I wouldn't necessarily do that because I worry about the style of football in Italy compared to the Premier League. But again, this is the whole issue with the Ten Hag out movement. It's just, anything. What's available? Cheap. What's available? Why would you sack your manager in the first place? And why, if you're going to sack your manager, would you not go for the best available? When we sacked Van Gaal, we had Mourinho ready to go. When we sacked Mourinho, we ended up with Ollie. Like, learn from the past. Go and get the best available. Don't go and get what's available. Get the best available. Maro says that Argentina are going to win the Copa America and the World Cup. World Cup's a long time ago. I'm looking forward to that World Cup in America. Marvin says be realistic though, but realistic in relation to what? Like, you don't sack a manager and then go for what's available. You sack a manager and you go for something that is the best you can get, best in class. You know, we haven't appointed a director of football that's available because we would have gone for Paul Mitchell. We've gone for one from Newcastle that's very difficult to get. We haven't gone for a CEO that's available. We've gone for one that's very difficult to get. So if you're going to go for a new manager, surely, best in class, you go for something that's very difficult to get. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Cracking show tonight. Really enjoying the 8 o'clock shows. It's Friday tomorrow night. It's Friday night show tomorrow, so that'll be good. I haven't had a drink all week because I'm being good. I'll tell you what, I might even do a video on it. I'm on a kick-ass eating regime at the moment. That's very boring for you, but it's amazing for me. I can't believe it. I can't believe the food I'm eating and enjoying it as well. Anyway, on that bombshell, thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video and subscribe. I'm back with you on the 10 o'clock show tomorrow morning. Have a great evening, whatever you're doing. Take care. Thank you very much. And just tonight, sleep easy. Forget the Southgate stuff. It's bullshit. United do not want to do it. They want a bit of continuity. They want to stick with what we've got based on what I said in the first 5 minutes. Speak to you in a bit. Take care.